Alpar, all of that was super helpful. And understanding then, how does outsourcing help shift the operating model for the better? What are some kind of indicators that say the partnership is working, or alternative looking at it saying, hey, this is why you're probably not getting the benefit of outsourcing?
Yeah. So when you think about the role of outsourcing, and we like to call it outtasking, it's really, you're not really outsourcing. Outsourcing means a bit more a functional shift. You're really, within procurement, there are different tasks that needs to get done, the way I described, right? And you're asking a third party to help you, you're outtasking them to do certain things for you, right? As an extension of your organization. So from that perspective, naturally the bottom piece, the transactional work, the volume of work ebbs and flows quite a bit, right? And also there's some transformative things you can do to do this with less people, to drive productivity and discipline around running that. So that's the first place where most organizations started outtasking transactional work, P2P, where we've done successfully looked at it and engaged and looked at how we can simplify those processes, how we can automate with technology and then do things faster, cheaper, etc. Right? So that's one natural one. And because the volume shift, we're able to shift our capacity to be able to meet that volume demand to maintain the responsiveness. Whereas if you're internally FTE driven, you have to have a fixed capacity that you have to invest in and then figure out how to use that capacity. Whereas if you do outtask that, you can go to a transactional variable cost commercial model and only use what you need along the way. The middle tactical layer is also what we believe is a project-based work, is input, output, and application of knowledge and expertise. So it's not just people, it's tapping into an expertise and knowledge of a collective wisdom. Over the years, as a company like us who have accumulated so much wealth of knowledge and expertise running projects for multiple different industries and customers, and to be able to use that knowledge and apply it at the project level is very valuable. And there's different ways you can slice and dice that work. Either there are companies who completely outtask that piece because that's still very project-based and they don't want to keep their internal capacity towards that work. And that can be done remotely by a third party in an augmentation fashion, running RFPs or doing contracts. Or it can be, slice and dice by, again, within that middle layer, there's also another pyramid by the complexity of the work, the nature of the work, the impact of the work. So that work can be compartmentalized and can be handed off and supported by a third party. And what's the benefit of that? I think, again, a variable capacity model comes. If you have a period where, your RFP flow changes, that third party can bring that additional capacity, the ebbs and flows that happens. Or, your contracting work still has very transactional and tactical work that needs to operationalize. A third party can come in and look at that and help you streamline that work and augment that work. And then the top piece, the strategic piece, we believe it should not be outtasked or outsourced. It should be retained by the organization. It's a very strategic capability aligned to drive, the most value out of procurement. And so that one, need to be kept. And a lot of CPOs are now taking time to, once you go to an operating model and you create a pool of people and capacity to do that work, investing in their skill set and their mindset to be able to do that level of work is the challenge there. It's not about outsourcing, it's really, upskilling your team and giving them the bandwidth to be able to do that work and freeing their time from other things they have to attend to is really important. So, and all in all, yes, outtasking does have a role in the operating model, and it's about structuring and figuring out what room can be operated by a third party and what rooms should be kept in-house, and those rooms are all connected and integrated to drive value and co-create value together.
That was a perfect ending, Alpar, the way that you summarized that and the visual that came to mind for kind of the house and the model and the way that you piece it together. So I always just like to ask before we go, is there anything that we haven't talked about related to the operating model that you think is important or relevant for CPOs and those who are hungry category managers ready to advance their career through this understanding?
Yeah, I don't think so, but I think, one of the things that is important, and we're seeing more and more now, and I go back 10 plus years ago, there was no role like a procurement operations, okay, is a new function, is not a function that's been there for a long time. And I think, if you're a CPO and if you're a procurement organization, you do want to hire a good procurement operations leader who focuses on the operating model and the operating challenges of your function, and that person can have a view of the nature of the work, the challenges, the processes, the enabling technology, and the skill set of the people, and come up with a plan and a transformation journey that will get you from here to the desired operating model that you want to put in place. Without that, I think it's been difficult, and that's why we see a lot of companies investing in that procurement operations function and leadership to be able to drive this transformation.